Alrighty. Yo, 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 yo.
What's up? What's up?
Okay.
Welcome to the 20 somethings podcast. That is the 20 somethings podcast, and we back and we better than ever. It's been a long, long time since we recorded. It's been like at least like
No. No.
sorry for the country accent. I just missed you guys, but it's been like a good month and a half, I want to say. Am I correct? Or I know you paid attention to that.
It's been a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, a month since we recorded anything. And so, we're back and, we have a special guest today too. The one, the only, Mr. Prince Iboka. Everybody give it up for Prince. Hey! Quick Dougie word. Hey!
Thank you guys
What's it
for
called?
having me. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome, Prince. Prince is like, a close friend to all of us. We all grew up together. And it's just great to, see us all like, growing up in our different careers and different like, hobbies that we're doing. And now we're having like a little collab here. So let's get it. But what's it called? Before we get straight into the, the topics, because Prince is an expert at a specific topic we're asking him about today. Let's get a little check-in with everybody. RFing, how y'all doing? It's been a month. I haven't seen you guys in a while. Why
Saw
haven't
us
we been
last week.
podcasting? Why haven't we been podcasting?
You saw us last week. First of all.
Anyway, how's the last month been for you, Shane?
What was last month? March? April?
Yeah, March to April, yeah.
It's been pretty good. It's pretty steady. Just been working. We went to a wedding. That was fun.
Hey, how was that?
It was really fun.
I wonder who
I look
got
great.
married.
Who
Yeah.
did? It wasn't me, y'all. I didn't get married.
Dang it!
Or his brother Io. Shout out Io and Mindy forever.
Hey,
Aiming
aiming
for forever, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a fun wedding. I felt a little embarrassed because when I walked into the actual wedding, the tapestry fell to the ground and everyone in the congregation turned.
And she was
It
late.
wasn't me. Was I late or was I right on time? Because
Yeah, I don't know. Prince, were you there
we
for that
started
part?
late, so
It was pretty late.
yeah.
Did you see the thing fall, Prince?
I heard it. It was right behind us.
Oh yeah, I was obviously one of the groomsmen. I just saw an object falling. I was like, oh god! And then I saw Nikki and Fiancin. These girls,
I didn't
man.
knock it over. It was a wind. So
Okay.
it was fun, I'm ready for someone else to get married in the group.
You.
How can I be married? Do I have a man? Do you have a ring on my finger?
Well, that's promo right there. He's looking for a man.
I'm not looking for a man. A man can look for me, but
Amen.
it's he who finds a wife. It's not she who finds a husband. Okay.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah, somebody. That's dope. Like you were obviously at this wedding, and this is like your blood brother, like who got married, man. Like I can imagine this might have been emotional for you. Like, how many?
Man.
Be honest. Did you cry? Did you shed a tear at all?
I didn't cry, but I was definitely emotional.
Yeah.
No, I did cry.
I know it welled up a little.
Yeah, I was definitely getting there. I think it was kind of a surreal moment. Seeing Io of all people. I mean, I never. No, not like that. Not like that.
Of all people.
As in, like you kind of like I already anticipated like my sister's getting married and all that other stuff, but it was just different because this time they're not leaving the family. We're actually adding another family member because she's gonna get my last name.
Yeah,
which is something I now started to deep in that moment a little more. Even just seeing Aya get emotional, like when she was walking up, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment.
That was even. I'm not even Aya's brother, and I even got me a little emotional.
Yeah.
Like,
so can I add?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So in college, I was actually Ayo's roommate. So
really?
that was also like a different perspective because all of our friends from Tucson came in and we were just all like reminiscing on different things and like we're here. I thought several other people probably would have been married long before Io.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and so like I told him this like 1,000 times. It was an honor to be there. It was really an honor to be there to witness that and to celebrate with them.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming, by the way, too. We appreciate it for sure.
Even for forever, they're still in Mykonos or something.
Enjoy Greece.
Enjoy their marriage.
Themselves.
Good.
And marriage is sweet, man. Already, like I'm sure, like since they
What are you doing?
joined.
You're the one who's in a
No, no,
relationship.
no, no, no,
David
no,
always does the
no, no.
same exact
No,
thing.
because listen, for the viewers, because they don't understand what's going on. Like, Ara is, Aya's little brother, and once Aya gets married, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, Ara, you're next."
I know. Yeah.
Gosh.
They've been
People
doing a
are
lot
I
of
think
that.
I think we all got that question that day though.
Seriously.
yeah,
Like
Even you, Prince,
all
you
the
got it
aunties
too.
and uncles, they were asking, Prince, so you have anyone that you're eyeing right now?
Not the
What you
elbow.
did here
Yeah.
at this wedding?
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
man.
so that pressure. Ours the last time Joel not married, so
Oh,
I know. That's crazy.
you gotta get to it, brother. No pressure, no pressure, no pressure at all. Listen to our last episode when the pressure gets worse for two to get into that
Yeah.
topic at least. So yeah,
Tap
yeah.
into that. Tap into
Promo at
that.
all times. That's what I'm telling y'all, man.
not
I'm
you
trying to
plugging
sell the podcast, man.
ourselves.
I'll tell you, plugging us up on our own platform. But anyway, let's kind of get into the podcast. So today we have Prince. Today we're going to be talking about a little topic that I feel like pertains to a lot of people in their 20s, which is finances. I know a lot of people when they hear that word, especially a lot of us in our mid 20s, late 20s, they might be like, "Oh my God, like I hate talking about money, or I'm broke, or whatever it is." But it's very important to actually be just financially, like intelligent, and just like make sure you're on top of it. And I feel a lot of the
Yep.
gaps that we miss and stuff is due to lack of information. Well, I think the Bible has like a verse that says like, my people fail because of a lack of knowledge. And I know I'm probably murdering that a little bit, but yeah, it's pretty accurate, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
perish.
Yeah.
I think it's perish.
Perish.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Depending on the version, King James, whatever. But yeah, so I think that's really big too with finances, because a lot of people just don't know. Like they don't know different like ways to invest, different ways to save, and like really just especially in our 20s when we graduate college, like we don't know how to handle like money that we get and all that kind of stuff. So we invited Prince here today. Everybody give it up for Prince again. Hey, who is our financial expert for today, and he's gonna just be joining us in conversations about all things finance.
Awesome.
So yeah, but to break the ice at first, we're gonna play a little game, a little financial game. All right,
Okay.
give us a drum roll, please.
Yes, there is a game we will play on this podcast today.
Hey,
Why are you rhyming?
I didn't even mean that, but like, yo, look,
No.
hey,
man.
you just come off the top with it, like
I'm not giving you kudos for that. Continue.
I'm weak. Yeah, so it's gonna be kind of like a would you rather type game. We've played it before. And we could just ask Prince or Fee, David, anyone can just jump in and answer it. Just to get a sense for like what your financial priorities are, you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you value most? Type
Yikes.
stuff. So yeah.
Wait, you don't act like I'm a broke person in here. I'm definitely not. Okay.
I know, but you like fashion over. I know those two.
Anyway, continue, Oren.
Shade.
All right. So the first one is if you had to choose between buying a house or traveling the world, which would you choose and why?
Right now?
Yes, right now.
Is it an investment property or is it like a house to live in?
And he already started, man.
You already going
Prince, we ready, man. We ready.
He already started,
Stay
man.
surface level, man.
We ready, man.
Let's say an investment property.
Whoa.
Okay. You guys have your answer already?
Prince, go ahead and answer for us.
Depending on the circumstances, because those are obviously two different dollar amounts. I'd go with the investment property because because it's an investment property, you can utilize the cash flow to fund your travels.
Mm.
And all that, of course, depends on your like personal situation at that point too.
Gotcha. I'm gonna travel. Sorry. Sorry. Because the world will not always be here, I feel like. So let's travel. Especially as a woman, like I have no kids currently, I have no husband currently. It's easier for me to travel right now. That's in true. My opinion.
Yeah,
So
I kind of I don't know. I kind of agree with me. It just depends like the type of trip. Am I just going to one country? Is this like a cruise? Like am I seeing
yeah.
the world
Around the world.
around the whole world? Wow,
Yes.
that's rare. But investment, don't get me wrong, investment properties are, good to do and everything. I
Yeah.
just feel like I don't know about we'll get into that more the market right now with all that kind
Hmm.
of stuff. And then I feel like that's kind of like also another job in managing like that as well.
Yep.
Because some people don't want to like manage that. Like,
Yep.
when they especially when you like let's say you get a house or something, right? And then you
Hmm.
now have like people tenants or something.
Yep.
And like you have to kind of be, constantly making sure you have tenants and making sure, if they're, oh, the thing is broken, then you kind of have to manage that. Some
Yep.
people don't want that job. Some people would rather just travel the world. So like Prince said, it depends on your personal situation.
Yep.
So my personal situation right now, I want to see Dubai.
Same.
I want to see the Maldives. But
Hmm.
So like with
yeah.
that, and I should probably have brief like context my answer with there's no right or wrong answer, right?
Hmm.
At least in my
Mm-hmm.
eyes. Because for me, I've always been the type of person that like delay your gratification, right? I
Mm-hmm.
just because it's like set yourself up now while you're young, you got the energy, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor. Because who knows, if you start today, it may not actually take you that long to get to that point where you're
Mm.
traveling the world and you're enjoying.
True.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, delayed gratification. Yeah, because if you travel, you get all your experiences, you acquire all your quote data sets and all those fun things. Now you come back home, you know.
You're broke.
No, I'm not broke.
Whereas like if you just took a few months or depending on your situation, a year or 2 years to set yourself up with the investments that would produce the passive income,
Hmm.
now you can travel. And when you're traveling, and speaking from recent experience, like when you're traveling, you're not as you can just like relax. Your shoulders are
Mm-hmm.
back. You can stay as long as you like if you want to. You're not thinking about, okay, I gotta go back home and do X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Like, you know what? I like Dubai. Dubai is really nice. I think I'm gonna stay another week. Like something like that. You know
Mm.
what
It's
I'm
different,
saying?
man. It's
Like
different.
Yeah.
He's
We
just
on that
different.
type
because
of
when
Like it's
time,
just
man.
different.
We on that time, man. I tell you,
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Because it's like you're
Yeah.
delaying the gratification today so that you can enjoy the trip even better tomorrow.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm just gonna combat this with a lot of what 20 somethings think of is like tomorrow's not promised, you know? So
Uh,
like let me choose what I want to do today. So what would you say to those people who don't have that like discipline to have that delayed gratification for things?
for me, there's so many things I could say to this. The first two things that came to mind was one, having a vision in place. Like that's how it all started for me. Was I really like when I was in college, I read a couple books. The three most prominent ones being Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and then As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Right. And the thing about those books is, at least the one thing that really stuck out to me the most was having a vision. So when you have a vision, it's not just like, okay, what are my goals for the next week, but it's like, how do I want to live? What am I here
Mm-hmm.
for?
Mm-hmm.
Is because I imagine like I take it you guys are all working at a job, the successful, high paying job currently. But I also imagine like later down the line, you're not always going to want to have to be forced to work at that job if you didn't want to. You want to be able to have the freedom
Amen.
to live a certain life that you want to live, whether it be spending more time in ministry, spending more time giving back, or going on mission trips or traveling the world, what have you, spending
Mm-hmm.
more time with your family. I mean, what else are we doing all this for, right? So having that vision of where you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I've gone so deep in this process where it was like, how do you want to be remembered when you die?
Mm.
The one question I asked this question a lot nowadays that was very profound to me was, and this is a question that I have for you guys now is, what is the number one thing that you guys would need to accomplish or experience in this lifetime in order to feel as though you've lived a complete life?
Hmm.
It's deep,
Man,
Prince.
I gotta really sit down and think about that.
Man, we were playing a game.
I know.
No, that's a great question though. That's
that
honestly,
is.
that's something I ask myself often. I find myself asking that to myself often. I want to say so you're saying what's like the number one thing we want to be remembered for?
No. So that was a different um question, different topic. But this one was, what is the number one thing that you guys would have to experience or
Okay.
accomplish? Or in other words, what would you want to do? The number one thing that you have to do in this life in order to feel as though you've lived complete.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be attaining financial independence while I still am young. I think that's one of, because I think everything kind of springboards from that. Like my ability to have time to do things that I am passionate about, my ability to impact people's lives more directly and more intentionally.
Yeah.
You know, my ability to be places that I want to be without like people overwatching me and kind of managing my movements. You know, I think that's, for me at least, that's where it all stems from. Yeah, that's what my answer would be. Like, I think that's where it all stems from. And even like spiritually, like I feel like that opens so many more gates with I think especially with rich people, at least looking at it from the outside in, they just look like they have so much time to think, like just basic time to think about your life.
Yeah.
Like I feel like when you're under the pressure and force of living and trying to survive, it's so hard to like see through that in that time. So I think financial independence, especially when you're young, will like helps that thing. So
yeah, I think that's a good answer. What's it called for me? It's actually crazy. It's finances kind of, but it's even more so like I feel more fulfilled when I'm around like, I don't know, family and like friends really. And like, so for me to create like a legacy for like my future family and stuff like that is more fulfilling for me. Cause I feel like obviously like having a lot of money opens so much doors for you. But like, you know, a lot of people have a lot of money and they're not like necessarily like happy, or maybe I don't know what their situation is, but on whatever that looks like, just like being able to, you know, create a legacy for like a family, like creating my own family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff would be fulfillment for me.
Yeah. Wow, these are such good answers. I would say same for both. I think I just want like total freedom. Like I don't have to wake up and think, oh my God, my car note is due. Oh my goodness, the mortgage is due. Like I want to wake up and have like total free reign without any necessarily like repercussions. Like I can spend this money without having to think, how am I going to pay for this, and this? You know what I mean? And then also having an impact on being able to help others as well. So they also reach that level of like, I no longer have to worry about these certain situations in my life. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's so crazy because, you know, it was actually funny. Me and Ara were having a discussion like a couple days ago. Like I was just at work the other day, and I'm a nurse. For, you know, those who don't know, anyone who works in healthcare, it's like kind of ups and downs with it. You know what I mean? Because there's a whole bunch of pressures and different stuff with it. And like that particular day, I was like, I literally said, God save me from bedside nursing. Like I literally just said it. And then I told Ara, I was like, I think I want to be famous. And not because like I want to like people to know me and all this kind of stuff, but just like I'm just looking at these people. I don't have to wake up and be like dragging. I gotta go to work again. I have to do a night shift. You know, all those kind of things. And
yeah.
So I think just freedom and like just being able to do and maneuver the way I want to do. And I think financial freedom, like, you know, can lead to that. You don't have to feel like you're tied to a job or you have to do this to make money. You know what I mean? So I feel like that is also very fulfilling to me too, because I'm like, you know, I don't want to be having 3 a.m. thoughts of saying, God save me from this job or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be doing that for the next how many years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's big too, for sure.
You definitely sleep different. And the other thing is when you're, how do I put this? When bills are no longer the focus, you have more time to actually think about your purpose.
Yeah.
Mm. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's very,
100%.
very true.
You know, your impact on life and your impact on the people that you love, as well as strangers, complete strangers. You never know who God's gonna call you to bless someday.
That's very
Very
true.
true.
Facts.
Pastor
Very true.
Prince. Wow.
Ah, for real, man. We
Yeah,
get
man.
all the expertise here.
Yeah,
Hey, man,
man. We
financial,
just playing a game.
spiritual. All right, man.
Yeah, it affects all areas of your life, you know, like
Seriously, man.
Yeah.
yeah, by all means keep God first. By all means keep God first, because at the end of the day, he's the one who's blessing with the wisdom, the knowledge to even acquire these
Yeah.
things and steward well over all of it. Yeah. The
That's
other
for
thing
sure.
that I was gonna say, going back to Fian's question in the beginning, outside of just having a vision, the second part to that was so I speak to a lot of investors, and there are the more one thing I've learned, I've spoken to, gosh, hundreds of investors at this point, and one thing I've noticed is like the more successful the investor, the longer term they're thinking. They're not thinking about just, you know, this week or next week or within the next year. They're thinking like a decade out, 2 decades out. You know, much like how you guys, your goals are establishing a family legacy and having that financial independence. They're not just thinking about financial independence for themselves, but if they haven't already achieved it, they're also thinking about financial independence for their entire family, even their kids that aren't even born yet.
Mhm.
You know, for their grandkids and their great grandkids. So it's like, you know, the Bible says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. These are these guys. Like they're really, when they're making decisions, you know, yeah, they're thinking about things that are going to happen within the next week, but when they're making the important decisions, they're thinking years out, even long after they're dead. You know, they have estate plans and trusts already set up. It's there. Once you go down this rabbit hole, man, it goes deep.
Mm.
For sure.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know, this all started from one question in a game, and we learned so
Yeah.
much
Wow.
content from it. Like,
Yeah.
I can't
Wow.
even wait till what we're gonna get into with all these questions tonight.
Ask
We're gonna be,
ask another would you rather
yeah,
before we
Okay,
jump
we
in.
can do one more.
one
Yeah.
more because.
Okay.
Okay.
So we've kind of asked a version of this one before, but I want to ask which one should I choose?
Come on.
Okay, I think I have it. So this one's like a bit of a conundrum. So it's, would you rather have no debt and no savings, or a lot of savings and a lot of debt?
That's on you. You gotta sit
It's
back and
tricky
think
because
about
you
that
got
one.
no debt, but you have no money.
But no. Wait, no savings, or like do I have investments?
No,
Your
you don't
teeth.
have any. Just say savings is savings is any money that is yours. You don't have anything. You don't have anything, any money.
So you're literally starting at zero.
Yes, or
That
savings
one.
and a lot of debt. Now, I have
Wait,
an interesting
never
answer
mind.
to this one, I think, but I want to hear you guys answers first.
I have no idea, because I know there are some instances where you can make your debt work for you, but at the same time, like if you have no debt and no savings, I feel like that's a blank card for you to start somewhere. You know what I mean? I don't know. Someone else go. I don't know.
How about if the debt is from student loans and Biden writes it off?
What?
Wishful thinking, man.
That
one.
Going back to what Fian actually alluded to is what kind of debt are we talking about? Because if it's investment debt, you know, good debt, then I'd rather have the second option where you have a ton of debt and a ton of savings, because that debt's being paid down by your business, by other people.
Yeah. I think I'll have to go with that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's way better than starting from zero, I will say.
Yeah.
You know, because yeah.
At my big age, no, sorry. Give me the debt and the savings.
And what?
But if it's like credit card debt and like you're just,
you
know, it's completely different.
That's true.
Yeah.
So there is good debt and bad debt.
Listen,
Oh yeah.
I know about
Yeah.
that credit card debt. Okay.
I've experienced both, and you want the good debt.
Yeah.
You want the
for
good
sure.
debt.
Yeah. I
For
no
sure.
longer have credit card debt. Thank you.
Hey man.
That's a testimony in its own because I had 10K in credit card debt.
Oh,
Yeah. But
Yeah, how
I literally
much
have
in
no
credit card debt?
10K in credit card debt. But
Hey
I have
man,
none
you're
now.
out of
Like
it now, though, right?
I literally have no credit card debt at all. So
Congratulations.
Good. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
feel free.
yeah, shoot.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
I don't know.
I don't know if I should share it now or later, but I'll just share it now. There was a point in time in my life I was $97,000 in debt.
So it's
Bad
cool
debt.
from Nazareth. 97,000.
Wow.
This like
97
student
debt,
loans?
almost 100,000, not student loans.
You was buying that Gucci, that
No,
Cartier?
none of that. It was none of that. A lot of it was actually just like investments that didn't go well.
That crypto?
This was back when I was much younger. Nope. Um, and I don't know what questions you guys have planned, but I figured I would probably share a bit about this story too. Like I had
Please.
partnered with the wrong people. People had embezzled funds. It was definitely one of the lowest points in my entire life. Like, and I ended up having to pay everybody back out of pocket. I was driving Uber. I was driving Lyft. I was doing scraping by, doing odd jobs. Like definitely
97K.
97,000.
I'll go back to
Yeah,
Nigeria.
none of it was student loans. It was just yeah.
Wow. You know what? Like, actually, I was gonna ask you like more about your like kind of your journey, your financial journey next anyway.
Okay.
So we can kind of start like what kind of started you like let's start from college, right? That's like when you kind of started school and everything. So like tell us a little bit like about your college journey and then like post college and how you really got like kind of more financially like stable and smart.
As it relates to finances, so the journey actually started um even before college, like when I was much younger. So
Okay.
my parents are divorced,
Mm-hmm.
for context. And one thing I learned when I was younger, I was 7 years old when they had divorced. And one thing I really took note of when I was much younger was that whenever they would communicate, it was always an argument back then. Now they have a beautiful relationship. I have a beautiful relationship with both of them. God bless them. I love my family. Like beautiful. But back then it wasn't as such. And there was a lot of arguments, a lot of strife. And a lot of the conversations that they would have always revolved around money. Who's going to pay for this? I don't want to drop them off at the airport because there's, travel and there's money involved. I got to go to work and schedules and this and that. And at a young age, I quickly realized like this money thing, I didn't know anything about it, but this money thing right here, get it out the way as fast as possible. Like in my young 8-year-old mind, I just knew like this money thing is very important and you need to get it like figure it out as quickly as possible so that way you're not experiencing a similar situation as your parents here. And it always started that way. Now fast forward, like even in high school, I was more so on the entrepreneur side. Like my very first business, I started it when I was in high school. It was like this man, it was like a t-shirt that would absorb your sweat. This was before like body armor and Nike started doing
Okay.
like dry wick, all those things.
Yeah.
There's like a t-shirt, but instead of it wicking the moisture from your sweat, it would absorb it. And there was like pads under the armpits and the abs and the back. Like I still have some of those shirts to this day. I think back on those days. It was pretty funny.
What did you think though? If it's just absorbing, wouldn't y'all?
He's obsessed with scent.
Smell.
Anything that has to do with scent.
Well, you know what? So I wasn't thinking that far ahead. The idea came from being in church. It was a hot summer day in church. I was wearing a nice lavender shirt. It was really nice. And I remember like, the pastor said, raise your hands up and pray. And I looked at my armpits and they're just like drenched in lavender. Yo, soaked. I could bring it out and it will just, be dripping on the floor. And I was like, nah, there's got to be an undershirt for this. But I was wearing an undershirt at the time too. So I thought about the idea and man, I went through the rabbit hole down during that time too, like going through different fabric stores and trying to figure out like which fabric worked the best. Yeah, it was pretty cool up until like then I went off to college because you know, I didn't know what I didn't know. And it kind of just died after freshman year, like the whole idea, because now I'm into the whole school system and, I'm really trying to focus on this school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, that's where it all started. Then fast forward in college, the whole idea, I majored in economics and business administration.
Ooh.
The reason I chose those two majors, I minored in business administration. So the reason I chose that major and that minor was because the economics, the idea was for me to go to school and become an attorney. So I was either going to be a contract attorney, an attorney for entertainment, but just an attorney. And then I would, in my mind, I'd make a lot of money, and then I'd invest it. Like that was as far as I could think ahead at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going through that whole process. I graduated in 3 years. I didn't take any breaks, and I got to that. So I went to the University of Arizona, and I had the privilege and the opportunity to do a week of pre-law. So this was 2015, like around September, October of 2015. This was like my junior/senior year. It was like my final year before graduation. So they gave all the seniors the ability to do a week of pre-law to see what it's like. And I quickly found out these past 2.5 years that I've been working, towards this one goal of becoming an attorney, this is not the route that I wanted to take. What had happened was I'm reading this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Have you guys heard of it?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yo. Okay, so just hold that in one hand. So I'm reading this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It was a gift from my auntie. Shout out to Auntie Mama, Auntie Lara. And at the same time, I'm doing this week of pre-law, and I noticed everything that I liked about school, the social life, being able to be a part of like extracurricular activities, clubs, the African Student Association, all that was just sucked out of school. And everything that I hated about school, the books, the reading, the lack of social life, just like you're just reading, boring text the entire time, all day, every day, little sleep, was just magnified, just like expanded. And it was probably about day 3 of the entire week of doing pre-law where I just had that feeling in my stomach, like something's off here.
Not for you. Yeah.
Right. My mind didn't want to agree because my mind was so like focused, like this is what we're doing. We're gonna do this, hell or high water, or this is what we're gonna do in life. And then it was probably, I had a couple of days where I just wasn't sleeping because now the feeling in my gut was now to a point where it was really bothersome. And then I remember it was probably like 2 a.m. in the morning one day of the second day of just not sleeping. And I was just like, I was just talking out loud to myself, pacing in my room, and I was just like, I don't think I want to go to law school. Like I just said it out loud, just to myself, and it was just like a weight was just lifted off my shoulders the moment I said it out loud.
Yeah.
And then I started to entertain the idea a bit more and a bit more, and I was like, okay, you know what I'm gonna do now? I'm gonna tell my mother that I'm not gonna go to law school, and that was it. That was as far as I could think. So 6 o'clock came, I called my mom, and I told her, hey mom, guess what? She's like, what? Like, I don't think I want to go to law school anymore. I'm happy because I just figured out like something that was very pivotal.
Yeah,
to
that
her,
was bother you.
She's a Nigerian mother.
You told a Nigerian mother, I don't want to be a lawyer anymore.
So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I don't think I want to go to law school. She was calm. And at first she was like, okay. So what are you gonna do? That I learned a key lesson the moment she asked that question. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know. So that's exactly what I told her. I was like, I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. Like that was my response to her. And that's when things went downhill real fast.
How old were you at that point?
I was 19, 20.
You were 19 and you already graduated from college?
I started school early and I was graduating early on top of that. So like since preschool, I started school a year early than all my peers.
Okay.
And then I did 3 years instead of 4 years like most of my other peers. So I graduated at 20 years old instead of like 22 or 23 or 24.
Okay, because I'm like, I know we're around the same age, and you said 2015. That was like my first year in college. So I'm like,
Yeah.
or second year. So I'm like, oh, okay,
You
interesting.
know,
Okay.
so the moment I said I didn't know was the moment like, man, I got the lecture of a lifetime. She was like an hour long. It was supposed to be a quick 15-minute call. It turned out to be an hour of just her just like hammering me with just, we did not send you to school to just give up, just
Mm,
Yeah.
lecturing me. And
mm-hmm.
and then she's like, I have to go to work. Like she just got off the phone upset, and so she did her thing, and now she left me with this. But what she did next was actually very. I'm actually really grateful for it. So she called the pastor at the church that I went to at the time. I'll just can I say the name, David?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
I'm
So
like,
she called your dad, Pastor Ojo, and she was, she shared with him everything. Like she legit thought I was throwing my life away. In his words and her words, like, my son's throwing his life away. I need you to talk to him and just put him back on the right path. You need him, like, as a male figure in a young boy's life to, really impart that wisdom. I'm really glad she did that, because here's what happened. So fast forward the end of the semester now. It was probably about 2 days before Christmas in 2015. I had just finished reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. So now my mindset is all about like passive income. It's about investing. It's about business. It's about all this, financial literacy. And now I'm in your dad's office. I'm in Pastor Joe's office, and I'm literally sitting in his chair, in the guest chair, and he's in his voice. I can't imitate his voice, so just imagine Pastor Joe's voice as he's saying this. He was like, Prince, I heard, I spoke with your mom, and she thinks that you're throwing your life away. She says you don't want to go to law school. Tell me, what's going on? And in my head, as he's asking me the questions, I'm also thinking in my head, am I going to listen to what he's about to say? Right? Like, is he someone who's qualified to give me the next advice that I'm about to listen to? And so the question that I asked him was, so I took a moment, I'm sitting in the chair, nervous as heck. I'm just like, Pastor, have you ever owned a business before? Like, that was the question that I asked him. And so you're laughing because you know. And so he sits back in his chair now. Now he sits back in his chair, and he, he's like, I own several businesses. And I did not expect him to say this. I did not expect him to talk about his experience in this. And so he goes down the list of all of his businesses. And the last business that he shared with me was real estate. And that's where the light bulb really went off, was when he had shared that. We were supposed to have a quick 30-minute conversation where he would, give me a pep talk, and then I'd be on my way back to school.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a whole like 4-hour conversation just about business, just about real estate, investing. And that was the day, that was the catalyst. Like, that was the day that I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. So that was 2 days before Christmas 2015. January 1st, 2016, I made a promise to myself that whatever I do, this is the arena, this is the industry that I wanted to build wealth in. This is the industry that I wanted to work in. Like, it was really thanks to your dad at that point, at that time, having that talk with him, because that really helped me get focused on what I wanted to do in life. Because I was in a point prior to that conversation where I was just kind of like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
I'm reading these books. I know what I was planning to do wasn't the right way. However, after that meeting, it was kind of like, okay, this is a direction that I can go. This is a direction that I understand fundamentally. Let me go that route. So I started my company basically my senior year of 2016, and yeah, it's been quite the journey. I can keep going. It's a long. It's been quite the journey.
Wait,
Yeah.
Wow.
I got
All right,
a
go.
question. So as you were talking, I noticed a similar characteristic with people who are very determined and very self-motivated. When they are in a position where they know they're not supposed to be, they have a very strong internal sense of that, and they are able to like listen to it. And I think at least in our age group, it's that listening to that sense, listening to that gut feeling is more times than not overcrowded by like the expectations of other people in your life, like a pastor or your parent. So I really admire that, because it does take a lot of bravery to, number one, acknowledge it, and actually, number two, actually act on it and listen to it. I don't know if you know, I'm not going to mention his name because he's a problematic person right now, but he's a famous actor, and he was in school to be a software engineer. And at one point, he went to an internship. So he had a peek inside. And he immediately knew, like, this is not, like, I am in the wrong place, you know. And he had the wisdom to now eject himself from that. And it honestly saves you a lot of time, I think. Because imagine, had you continued down that path, maybe you get a job. Eventually, knowing the type of person you are, you will probably eject at some point. But you might have wasted those
couple more years or something.
Those years where you could have been building your business. So I just want to commend you for that. And I think that's really cool and very important. And people need to, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, even if you're not 20 years old or around that, and you're even your teenage years, that's very, very crucial, because it will guide you. It's not always a mistake, I would say. Sometimes I think it's just nervousness, but that when it's very strong and you feel it inside yourself, and like, you should listen to it as much as possible, and at least talk about it to adults and other people in your life who you think are important.
Yeah. I'll also agree, because one thing that popped out to me, that what made you pivot, you said it out loud, like, I don't want to do law school anymore. Because a lot of people keep that internal thought in, and they're just like, oh, this is coming from the devil. The devil's trying to
discourage me,
like, put me up. But sometimes you just say things like out, and then it's like, wow, like, it's out in the air. I feel better now. Like you said, that weight came off of you. So I think people, myself included, need to learn, like, to not let anxiety take over you taking that next step. Because I think a lot more people would be successful if they didn't think of all the negative things that could happen. Like, what if my business fails? What if I never do this? What if I never do that? But what if you did do this? What if we was successful, et cetera, et cetera? So I commend you as well. Yeah.
At the time, like, I did not see it as me, like, taking a leap of faith or anything. I just saw it as, like, pursuing something. Because I will say, back then, and a lot has changed so fast. Now it's more of a common thought, I would say, here in America, to forego going to college and getting that job, and more so pursuing a business and doing things like that. Back then, that was not the case. I was the black sheep for sure at that time. All of my friends graduated. They all had nice paying jobs. My father had disowned me for a period of time at that time, because, like, to him, it was the same thing as what my mother had thought prior to that conversation with Pastor Ojo. He thought I was throwing my life away, like I didn't know what I was doing, or I was just running around in circles. And you know what? I don't blame them, because at the time I didn't have a plan. So it's like, without a plan, of course, what else are they going to think, right? It wasn't until like 2 years. It wasn't until 2018, like middle of the year 2018, where me and my dad, he just called me randomly one day, and he was like, "Son, I know we haven't spoken in a while, but I just wanted to know, like, what are you doing?" It's just that was the attitude. He obviously has an accent. He's like, "Well, what are you doing with your life? Like, what are you doing?" And he was not asking more so to ridicule me, but now he was, because that ship has already came and gone. I've already received that ridicule. At that point, now he was asking to better understand, like, what is my son up to? Because it's not like he's come back around into our way of thinking. He's still on this path. So there must be something about this path. What is he doing? And I remember I shared with him. I was like, so at the time I was actually raising money for syndicators, so guys who are putting large projects together for apartment buildings or development projects, either in Phoenix or different parts of the country. And I shared that with him. I shared like down to the mechanisms, how much each person gets paid, the benefit to the investors, the benefit to us, all that. And I remember there was a long pause after I shared that with him, and it just randomly he was like, "Son, I'm proud of you."
Well,
And then ended the call right there.
Did you
Man,
cry?
I cried like a baby. Yeah,
Oh,
oh,
see how he
but
admitted
like,
he can cry, or
Huh?
see how he admitted he cried, or
Man, I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, but prior to that moment, prior to like May of 2018,
Mhm.
from that January 2016 to that May of 2018, I was definitely black sheep. Like all my family members, aunties, uncles, they were questioning me. Rightly so too, because you need to have a plan, especially as a 20 something year old. I was at that time 2016, 19 turning 20, if I'm remembering correctly. So like now you're already young, right? The younger you are, the more robust your plan needs to be. You need to really prove and show that you're actually about it. Because they're not in your shoes. They don't see what you see. You have to show them. You got to show them that. And so that was a lot of the games that I had to play, or that was a lot of the role that I had to play was not just pursuing that, but also for the people that actually cared about me and wanted to make sure that I was not throwing my life away. I had to show them, okay, here's what I'm actually working towards. Here's my actual plan. Here's how it actually will provide a living, and this and that. Mind you, though, I did bump my head several times along the way. Hence the $97,000 in debt and having to pay back investors and all that fun stuff. It wasn't, none of it was fun at all. But even through those hard times, that's when that plan that you put in place is the most crucial, when times are not good. And so like it's one thing to call someone who's trusted you with something and say, hey, this didn't work out as planned, but it's a completely other thing to not just give them the bad news, but also say, here's how we're going to make up for it.
Mm.
So it's, having you got to have a plan, you got to have a vision. Yeah. Yeah. I know we're
One
probably
other,
going off on a tangent.
yeah, one other thing I want to touch on, and maybe we can go forward after that, or maybe take a break, since we've been going on for a bit. I think it's very interesting how your perception of money is so shaped when you're like so young, and your parents don't really have they don't have an idea how much of an effect it's shaping your relationship. So as you were talking and you're speaking about it, I completely 100% relate. My parents are also divorced, and that's one of the more of the main memories I have, like them discussing finance stuff or hearing about finance issues. And I never want to be broke. That's just something I just internalized. And I said, however is going to happen, I don't want to be in a position where I'm like struggling. Right. And I feel like it does build a sense of fortitude. I also think is a negative portion to it too, because it can make you have a toxic relationship with money and not a healthy one, where you now don't know what it means to like take care of yourself. Like you're living on the edge you're living on an edge that's not really an edge, because your perception of what being broke was distorted, and you didn't get the opportunity to see what a healthy budgeter, spender, or whatever looks like. Not to say that my parents weren't healthy budgeter spenders. Everyone has the position that they're in, but you don't get that like that ideal model of such a person to like view. So I also think that was very interesting when you mentioned that.
My very first job was at the student housing apartment complex that I lived at. So North Point, that was my very first job that I worked at. Yeah. And I ended up only working there a month. It was during the summertime. Both my dad and my mom, she wanted me to get a job as soon as possible, earn that responsibility. My dad was like, no, focus on your school. Getting a job is going to be a distraction. And I could understand both their perspectives. For me, I just wanted to make some money. Like,
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't want to be broke, right? So I worked at North Point, and I remember probably like a month or so into it, there was like a family, like a major family problem that was going on that needed my attention. Like I needed to be there. So and it was, I had to like fly out and all this. So I told my boss, I gave her, at least like I didn't say like I was gonna leave tomorrow. Like I was like, hey, this is what's going on in my family. I need to tend to this and I'll be right back and all this stuff. And it was in the middle of what's called a turn. So and you guys know what a turn is? So basically like right before you move into an apartment, they have to like basically make it ready and feel brand new from the previous person that was living there. So they repaint the walls. If they have to replace furniture, they'll replace furniture, all that fun stuff. And so the boss was like, "No, I need you for the turn. I can't let you go." Something about those last few words that she said just didn't stick right in my head. Like,
Mm-mm.
you can't let me go. Like something about that just did not, like as if she's my slave owner or something,
That's
right?
what I said. I was so
Fine.
And I remember like I went back to my apartment that same day and I was thinking about just those words, can't let me go, can't what are you talking about? In the meantime, like my phone's blowing up because I needed to like attend to these matters. And I remember the very next day I just walked into the office and I gave her my 2 weeks. I was like, look, I need to do this. And I learned the lesson that I learned out of that experience was just that exactly what you just said, Aura, which is like when you have that financial independence, it doesn't I was not financially independent at that time. I very much needed that money, but I also like family first, right?
Right.
So like that was the very important lesson that I learned was like I needed to be independently, like not have to rely on just one person or any one thing to provide me um, sustenance in life. And so yeah, I quit and I handled that, and then I went back to school the next semester, and yeah. The other experience that I had was back in 2018 while I was still, in the middle of that whole debt situation. I was driving Uber and Lyft at the time, and I had dropped this lady off at some bar in Scottsdale. And man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you the dark side of all of this when you're not financially independent. It's good to have a job. It's good to have a well-paying job. It really is. What's not good is when you're in a position like I was back in 2017, 2018, and parts of 2019, I was in a position where I had to work. Like you guys, if I mean, God, I pray you guys have some savings. Like if you got fired, you would still have enough time to like find, bounce back. I did not have that. Like every dollar I was earning was going towards paying back debt. Like I had barely any savings, if that. And I was literally in a point where it's like like I couldn't even afford to sleep. I was sleeping in my car,
Mm.
man. It was bad.
Wow.
Mhm.
Like it was bad. I'm so grateful I went through it too, because I got to see it. I really got to see it. I got to experience it. Like when you can't afford to just like retire at night, just for one night, just for a couple hours, like there'll be days. I remember there were days where I'd be driving somebody and I'm like fighting the urge to like doze off and low key swear. Like I do not recommend this at all. And like it was bad, man. Luckily, I never
Mm.
got into a car accident. That
Thank
was
you,
my
Lord.
fault. Like it's never a situation I would ever want to go back to again. It's
Yeah.
actually one of the main driving forces of how my whole personality today was just going back and thinking about like how painful it was to even go through that.
Mm.
Hmm.
I'm so
Yeah.
grateful that I did it too. Like I'm so grateful that I went through it because it's a character building moment.
Yeah,
For
Really
sure.
character
For
those
building
sure.
really,
moment.
yeah, those experiences really shape you as a person for real, and really
Mhm.
from the
Yeah.
foundations.
And I feel like you know how like earlier like both of you guys were talking about like how money like when you guys were younger you saw how money was the struggle and stuff and that
Yep.
was just like a motivating where like I do not want to be broke again. Having those situations that like Prince had like that's like just a motivation where it's like I don't want to go back to Egypt like I don't want to go back
Hey,
to so I will do
God
whatever I have to
forbid.
do to like make sure like I'm financially stable.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So that's huge. That's huge. Let's go. One of the questions I want to ask you, Prince, like once you kind of got out of that like situation, right, out of debt and everything, and you kind of like started making more money, like was there like a mind like a mindset shift for you? Like, because before you were just like paying off debt, probably not saving too much. I'm not too sure like if you could really invest again at that point to anything. So like now when you like recover into that and you're able to like, have profit and stuff like that, was it like a mindset like shift for you, or were you just kind of like holding on to money? Like how did it change for you?
That's a beautiful question because the mindset shift, the mindset shift happened during that whole period. It was
Mm,
because of the mindset shift that I was even able to get out of debt and to even and level up after that. Like you have to like I don't know, I forgot the guy's name, but like one of these motivational speakers, like you have to see the vision before the vision comes to pass. Like I was reading the books in between the rides that I was doing as I was still putting deals together on the real estate side as I was still driving Uber. I was still listening to hella podcasts. I was still reading books voraciously. I was day in and day out. I put the time into like educate myself and shift my mindset because there was no other route. At
mm,
least at that time, the way I
Trenches.
saw
That's called the
life.
trenches, Prince.
Yeah, yeah. There was you just had to go. You had to go straight. And I knew for a fact, like I would tell myself every day, like this is just temporary. This is just
True.
temporary. You'll see the life. There are days even today, like the life that I have the privilege to live today. A lot of what I was going through was just like a vision in a notebook that I wrote during that time when I was really struggling and like it gets deep in the emotions if I think too hard about it. But it's the mindset, the vision. It all came in from when I was down in the dirt.
mm,
That was the real like when I started getting serious about it.
yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that's great. So,
that's deep.
so, so now, like, since you're like, not in that situation anymore, and you said the mind shift started like happening while you were reading those books, you were actively still like, doing things now. So now, like, from where you are now, like, do you feel like it's different, compared to like that time, like
Oh yeah.
now,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure?
In which way? It's
Like
different.
just like the way you like kind of just handle money, like because at that time, like I was saying, like you were probably just any money you got, you were putting it into something. But now, like you can
Yeah.
make a profit. So, like, do you invest now into things? Like, do you save it? Like, is there a percentage you save? Like, what's your
Yeah.
kind of as much as you can share? Like, what's your kind of like mindset when it comes to money now?
That's a great question. So yeah, everything changed. Even because like the physical changed. Back then, like I wasn't even eating healthy. Like I was eating whatever I could, gas station food.
Yeah.
But now, if I earn money, for instance, like $100, let's just start like $100. 10% of that I'm instantly, is tithes. I'm giving that to the church, maybe a bit more if I'm offering and just giving in general, right? I'm a very big believer in you receive what you give. Um, there's a better way to say that,
Um,
but the secret to living is giving. Like I'm a
yeah.
very
Mm-hmm.
big believer of that. Like giving is a very big portion of my life. So that's like first 10% and maybe a bit more is to that. Another 20% I save. Like I put into savings, and then another 10% I put for taxes, and then the rest is set aside for all my various needs and things like that. And then when I'm saving, I'm not just only saving well, initially I'll save to have my nest egg, like my, secrets, like world comes to an end fund.
Mm-hmm.
Like your
Yeah.
stash, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And
Rainy
then
day.
once, yep, your rainy day. And after that's fulfilled, then it's like now saving for investment purposes, like actually going into and putting projects together for myself and for my family.
Oh, okay.
I
Wow.
Okay.
see.
Okay. That's dope. One question I sorry, I just have a lot of questions, obviously, but like one
And
thing
that's
I
just
always
me, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt before you move on. Like that's
uh
just me. Different personalities will do different things. I know some people where they'll earn $1.50 of that dollar goes straight to savings, and then the other 50 they'll splurge and spend. But that's what works with them. I try to be methodical about it. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of the same way too. When I first got my first job at like 16, 17, like my parents saving has just always been something that like my parents kind of like encouraged me to do. So like I just kind of got used to like living off of like 50% of like whatever I make. Obviously like 10% will go to tithe, and then like 40%, I would say 40% at that time. And like that was because I was like, a teenager still, and like, I wasn't paying rent or anything like that. And I didn't really have that many expenses. When I got my first job too, like I kind of, because I started having to pay more stuff, obviously, at more expensive, I cut it down to like 20 to like 30%, depending on like what's going on. So like my question is to like, I'm saving all this money, right? And like maybe like I'm not, like you talked about a rainy day account, and then one for like investments. For that rainy day like savings, like I know it's kind of different with everybody, but like how much is like too much to keep in like a savings account for like a rainy day, if that makes sense? Because like I know
Yeah.
some people are like kind of like, oh, like if you're leaving money in a bank account, like is like you're not, inflation
I was
will like
gonna
pretty much like take that away or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I don't know, like anything could happen, like. But I don't know what's your thoughts on that, Elise?
there's so many different schools of thought with this. So one key thing about my whole journey too is I actually found a coach, a business coach and mentor that is still very much a very important piece of my life today. And I chose him based on the way that he was living his life and how he handled his funds and how that, how he ran his family, all that fun stuff. So I pretty much just followed like his blueprint on when it came to that because there's so YouTube University will lead you down so many different paths. It's crazy. You'll have some guys that say you shouldn't be saving anything, and every money you get, you need to invest it in yourself, buy the books, go to seminars, invest in skills. Whereas there's other people that'll say like you need 6 months or 3 months or 1 month worth of expenses just set aside before you can even think about doing anything. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm a bit of both of those, right? So like definitely have your rainy day because what if another COVID happens and you're out of a job? You want to be, God forbid, knock on wood, but like you want to be able to withstand those kind of storms, but at the same time you also want to allocate a certain amount of money towards like education, self-education. So not just like going to school and learning the skill sets that relate to your job, but more so also learning the skills that relate to building wealth, financial literacy, understanding taxes, understanding businesses, how businesses run, all the different business models. If it's real estate, all the business models just around real estate or your industry, psychology, leadership. Leadership is a very big thing. A lot of things just pretty much stem out of leadership and being able to not just lead other people, but lead yourself to maintain discipline. So it's, investing in yourself is a very big piece of that. So I would say like a bit of both, just having that rainy day for those rainy days, because rainy days will come. And then also saving a portion just to invest into yourself so you continue to sharpen your iron sharpening iron, just to continue to stay sharp.
What's your thought on like courses? Because I know sometimes there's a lot of those YouTube guru people. They'll sell like a course. People have
Yeah.
conflicting ideas about it because sometimes they're trying, they're in it they're making money, but you can't really gauge the value of what they're teaching you unless you actually pay them. So what are
Exactly.
your thoughts on that? Have you ever bought a course? Like, what are
Oh,
your thoughts on it? Yeah.
I bought so many courses, man. I've invested a lot in my education, like outside of school. Like I've invested a lot in my education. A lot of courses were purchased, a lot of seminars have been gone to, a lot of books were bought. Courses work, but you have to I will say not all courses work. Some of it, it's not worth the money, but you also got to look at it for what it is. Like they basically just packaged a bunch of information that would take you like a long time to figure out on your own. They basically just packaged it all together in one place for you to to digest and then take action on. A lot
Yeah.
of the times the people that are complaining about courses are the ones who they buy the course thinking that it's good, it's the magic bullet, it's gonna it's gonna, rid them of all their woes without doing any of the work. You got to do the work. There is going to be that lag time before things blow up. There's that learning curve to figure things out and actually understand what's going on. Because what these guys are sharing, and I've experienced it on both sides, where I'll tell someone, all right, this is what you do. You got to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And then, they start at A, they look at how much they have to do for A, and then they stop and then they complain that it doesn't work. And it's like, dude, you got to do the work if you want the results, right? And even if you got through Z and it didn't give you quite the results you were looking for, it's repetition. You got to keep going through it. And so I bought a lot of courses for different things, from e-commerce, social media marketing. This was back in 2018 when I almost gave up on real estate, actually. I was trying to figure out maybe there's a better way. But what I ended up figuring out going through the whole 9 yards, affiliate marketing, different business models, multi-level marketing, if you guys are familiar with that. Like,
yes.
MLM.
Do you have a MLM like story?
Bruh. My first experience with MLM was this company. What's it called? Herbalife. Have you guys heard of Herbalife?
Oh my God.
I was in college and this guy, he was looking fresh. He was, in a suit, walking around passing out these little flyers talking about, yeah, you can make $10,000 a month or something like that. And I was like, well, I'd love to make $10,000 a month. So I go to the thing. This guy's literally drawing a pyramid, an upside down triangle about how everything works. And I was in the back of my head, I'm like, something about this just doesn't seem right. But I still kind of like went along with it. And then it wasn't until like after I spoke to a few people, they were just like, nah, man, I'm good. And then, but so I went back to the guy and I was like, this doesn't work because the only way I'm making money is if I sign someone else up, and no one wants to sign up for this. Like, it's. I think they got in trouble for a major lawsuit a couple of years back. But
yeah, they rebranded though, so now a lot of what they do is they become like smoothie shops under different names, and they just say, oh, we have this energy booster we can add to your smoothie now. It's only $5 more. It's just Herbalife that they've added. Bruh. And they're like posted next to a bunch of gyms, which kind of work for them, but like would not recommend.
Yeah, there was Herbalife, there was Amway, there was there was other company like Verve, the energy drink Verve. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
I do.
There's another one.
You said Genix?
I haven't done that one. There was the Primerica.
Yes, a lot of our Nigerian people.
A lot.
Because I remember I would be.
Stop calling my phone.
Sometimes I would be going to the meetings, and I'll just be like, "What are we talking about?" Like I'll be tired. Like,
bruh, yo,
they're persistent.
They are.
Very
they be calling.
Very persistent. And then there was my favorite one was like World Ventures, because it was centered around travel. Same MLM, but it was centered around traveling. So it's like you're traveling the world, but you're also a part of this MLM. You sign more people up. Like I don't remember the business model, so I could be botching it. So like apparently you sign more people up, you'll get credit so you can travel for free type of thing. Like it was pretty cool because the people I met. Yeah, a lot of MLM. There was even like some Forex ones for like foreign.
I remember that wave.
Yo, learn Forex, but really you're not learning. You're just signing more people up and you'll get credits. And
where'd they go?
Exactly. Where y'all at, Forex people? I have a question.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to own a business, right? There are some people in this life they just won't own a business. They'll work forever for the rest of their lives, unfortunately. It will not be any of our portions in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
But what would you advise them in order to like maximize the money that they receive in regards to like 401ks, HSAs, what else can they invest in? But
Roth IRA.
Investing, Roth IRA, like what piece of advice would you give them in that regard?
I would and let me context this by just saying, like, by no means am I an expert. I've just been down a path and I've learned a couple things.
Right.
With that being said, I would say also the other thing I would context this is there's nothing wrong with having a job.
Yep.
it is just not always for everyone, especially over a super long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to job security, I would still take that time to invest in yourself. That's always the number one thing. So like reading the books and going to the different, whether it's a seminar or a conference, to just learn about the other things that you can do with that surplus money that you have. So you know what to do with investing. Because I could say, and dollar cost average into the S&P 500, but half the people listening probably wouldn't even know what that means, right? Or even go buy real estate with that surplus funds. But much like what Ora or David was saying in the beginning, I don't want to be responsible for having to manage it. And there's other ways to go around that, by the way, too. Or investing in someone else's project and getting a return, or investing in someone else's business and getting a return on those funds. There's so many things that you could do, but without knowing what you can do, you're not gonna really open that door. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I would say like the number one thing is just investing in yourself in that regard. That's where investing in yourself is important, because then you gain that wisdom.
For sure. For sure.
Mm.
Yeah. I think one other thing I was gonna ask was you've gone through a lot of things. Like you've done Uber, you've gone through MLMs, you've seen a lot in the landscape, right?
Yeah.
And you've ultimately landed upon real estate. Now, what is special about real estate from all this other stuff that you've gone through? I know we hear things like you have equity in a property, you can leverage ownership of the property, maybe you can lease it to tenants. What makes real estate, in your opinion, the prime vehicle to make more money?
It's a beautiful question. So, I for me, it's easy to understand. It's very easy to understand. Real estate is a very large industry as well. There's so many different jobs, investment strategies, careers just in those two words alone, real estate. But for me, I've always looked at real estate from a long-term perspective, like generational wealth perspective. And
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to understand because it's the only asset class where you'll buy it. And in some cases, depending on where you're buying and how you're buying, it'll go up in value like a stock, but it's also kicking out consistent passive income. And so, like a lot of people, they can live off of that income. You can reinvest that. There's so many avenues in real estate as well that I discovered just through my entire journey, that it was just like it was like a never ending
Resource?
yeah, well, resource, more like a never ending like I don't want to say wanderlust. Like it was like I'm discovering something new every day kind of thing. Like there was, oh, you could do this, oh, you could do that. Oh, you can buy land and develop subdivisions, or do the same thing but and build apartment buildings, or invest in this syndication or that syndication, or like when you drive around this, everywhere you go, like you're on real estate. The roads that you're driving on, the houses that you're living in, the schools that you're going to, like it's all real estate. And there's so many different things that correlate with that real estate. So I love that aspect of it, because I was always learning something new. But I also love the fact that there was a lot of passive income when you do it right. And for us being in our 20s, the reason why like it's so important that we start young in just gaining financial literacy also is because our bar is still very low. We don't have kids, we don't have a family, our for the most part, like our expenses are still very quite low compared to like give 10 years from now. Now you have a couple kids, you got way more responsibility. So now you're in a position where now you have a higher bar. You don't have as much time or leeway to really go after certain opportunities because of the risk of potentially losing it and then it affecting your family. Whereas for us, and what I learned during my whole journey with just this discovery phase is, yeah, when the bar is low, the potential is much higher. And yeah, that was a long answer to your very short question. But the two main things is it was easy to understand and it was a lot of passive income.
Yeah. 100%.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful answer
Yeah.
to a beautiful question.
Third thing is the tax benefits. There's a lot of tax benefits with it. It's a very safe vehicle. It's a very secure vehicle compared to other investments. You can invest for the long term. The longer term you invest, chances are the better the investments. In some cases, depending on what your strategy and what your business model is in real estate. Um, I did say the tax benefits, the cash flow. You get solid rates of return just based on cash flow. Like the way we structure a lot of our investments with our investors is it's very cash flow centric. Like they're getting a rate of return just based on cash flow, not even including any of the tax benefits, any rental increases, how we buy the property. Like from day one, it's cash flowing and they're getting a rate of return on that. Everything else I just mentioned is just icing on the cake.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And yeah. We
It's
get a
very
long conversation.
multifaceted. No. It's definitely multifaceted. And it has many tentacles. It almost reminds me of like electrical engineering. I don't mean to bring it back but that's how I kind of make sense of it. In electrical engineering, the theory itself is very straightforward, even though it's not like super simple, but it's more so straightforward. But the branches that have like that spread out from it is like you would never. There's some elements of it which you will never have any sort of exposure to or will ever even understand. There's levels of it that you may not even access or tap into that people exist in, and that's what kind of sounds like a bit of that with the real estate.
I have a question. It's kind of like real estate, but not real estate. Like basically, because I see this a lot on like TikTok, which is not a reliable source of information, people. But anyway, like people saying like, oh, I struggle to buy a house for myself because all these real estate people are buying up the houses and either flipping them into like Airbnbs or jacking up rental pricing so high. Like, do you ever feel any sort of like, dang, I am doing that? But also I'm investing into my own, like I'm also investing into like my own family and my own legacy and things like that. Like, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
There's a lot going on in the market. Like it's not people like to blame the battle real estate investor, but it's also the real estate investor that is helping a lot of these people too. Because the thing is, the houses you live in, it was built by an investor. It was built by, in many cases, investors. The without investors, there wouldn't be an ability to rent. We'd all be in government housing, which in many cases isn't as good. And then also because of what we do, I actually never shared a bit about what we do. So I run a private investment company, private equity company, whereby we focus on acquiring buildings. So we work with our partners, our capital partners, our investors to acquire buildings that we then lease out to home health companies and nonprofits. So these are your assisted living facilities, your group homes for children and adults dealing with mental disabilities, mentally handicapped, your sober living treatment facilities, your housing for veterans, your housing for women who are escaping abuse. The industry term is battered women. I hate that term. But of the like. We also have had the privilege of even we never ended up working with them, but just being in the circles of people who they directly deal with children, women, adults who have been sexually trafficked. So they're traffic survivors. So we those different organizations, those different nonprofits, whenever they need housing, they come to us and we provide them with those housing facilities. So given the fact that we do this, one thing I love to say every time is that I get the beautiful opportunity day in and day out to mix capitalism with altruism. Because with the investing that we do, we're also in a position where we're providing value to the community as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
100%.
Wow, that's a win-win.
Yeah, I didn't know that you could even touch in that like realm with real estate. So that's very interesting. One question, David, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just like, I didn't know you were getting to that private equity bag.
Yeah, that bag's
So you
different,
got
man.
I've heard about that private equity bag.
Yeah, we heard about it, man. We heard
That
stories
bag
about that.
heavy. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing to do what I do. It's something that I take very seriously, and I say the word a lot, but it's an honor. It's an honor. Because on the capital side, you're dealing with investors who are trusting you. You know, they're trusting you with their hard-earned money. They're in some cases their money that they've spent decades to build up. And then on the other side, you're also dealing with these individuals, these families who need help. And so it's like, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Oh, I have a question. Are you the CEO of the company, or like you like work with partners, or how is it? You don't have to answer it or go into detail. I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I was so it's the same company that I started back in college. It just got reshaped. You know, I
Okay.
restructured it with the help of my mentor and my coach to do things the right way and legally and all that fun stuff.
Okay.
So I'm
Awesome.
the owner and founder. We have a whole team that we work with, you know, on the acquisition side, insurance, lending, even accounting and bookkeeping, taxes, all of that. Lawyers, attorneys. Yeah.
Okay. And with that,
Wow.
like how do you manage that being the leader of a company? Like it's honestly a bit surreal because we grew up with Prince, right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we were there when he was not a CEO. So now that obviously you've grown, you've evolved, you have a lot of people depending on you. Like how do you
Yeah.
manage that alongside with being happy?
Well, it goes back to the vision, right? Like it goes back to like the whole why I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, once the responsibility is great, yes. You know, it's you really can't afford mistakes, but at the same time, you also have to remember like why you're doing this. For me, my biggest why for that question that I asked in the beginning was I wanted to bring my family out of debt. That feeling of being debt free was so surreal. I wanted each member of my family to experience that. But even deeper than that, also to spend more time with my family and have and allow them also that opportunity to be able to spend more time together too. Because family is the
Yeah.
backbone of this country. It's the backbone of civilization. So,
Yeah.
you know, that was always my mindset. So that's how I balance it all. Are there days where it's tough and it's kind of just like, man, I just want to go to sleep and not have to deal with this? Absolutely. But then there are also days where it's like complete bliss and I'm just like, man, I'm so glad that I stuck it through. I'm so glad that, you know, that God has really blessed me with the ability to live this life that I'm living. You know, so it's yeah, you know, actually as a matter of fact, scrap everything I just said and keep just that last phrase. Like it's
Hmm.
God, dude. Like it's all God. You know, it's
Hmm.
1,000%, 1,000%. You know, yeah, I can keep going, but like that's my answer. That's the answer that I'm gonna stick to. It's just by
Wow.
the grace of God.
Pastor Prince in the building.
Yeah, Prince. Like, wow, this is
You know
crazy,
what?
man.
One thing I'll say is like entrepreneurship, starting my business and going down this route was the deepest spiritual journey in my entire life.
Mm.
It wasn't when I was in college. It wasn't when I was working. It wasn't when I was a kid. It was going through a business. It was starting a business, operating a business, and just operating on nothing but just faith, just like legit faith, just like praying to God, like man, it's that was the biggest spiritual journey I've had because I've had the lows. Like I've yeah, we'll probably save it for
Trenches.
another day. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, Prince. Well, Prince, just to let you know, as someone who's grown up for you, I mean, with you, we are proud of you. Like, this
Very
is
proud
like
of
Oh
you.
really big.
man.
Like everything that you're doing, man. Like, it is
Salute.
it's crazy. Like you were born for success. Like you don't know. Like when we were growing
Your
up,
name is
like
Prince.
I'm
I'm
telling
telling
you, man.
you.
Like when we were growing up, like you were already focused. Like I remember, like as a
Right,
kid,
yeah.
you were reading books like about success, and like we were all like looking at like, wow, like this guy is born for this, like for real. So just like even hearing like the journey you've had and everything, like you're where you're supposed to be now, like for sure, like
Yeah.
you're destined
Thank you,
for it,
man. Thank you.
for sure, for sure,
Wow.
for sure.
I don't have anything
Awesome.
to say, but wow.
Yeah, so That's it. That's the
But yeah,
episode.
I think that's pretty much
And
all the. Oh, sorry, go.
no, go ahead. You're wrapping it up first.
What kind of wrapping up is
Yeah,
this?
sorry
Let's
about
add
that.
some flavor, some
I should have
pizzazz.
let you go. I just want to say thank you, Prince, for just having a conversation with us, sitting down and having this. I think this was a really, really good conversation. We really liked your story and just like your advice. You answered a lot of our questions. And yeah, like what how can people like reach you, like if they want more information about you? Like you have social media or anything?
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not even on social media as much as I probably should be. So my IG is Prince Isiomoba, which is basically like I'm literally like on my phone trying to pull up my Instagram. Prince underscore Isiomoba. So Prince, my first name underscore Isiomoba. It's a mix between my two middle names, so my Igbo name and my Yoruba name.
You
And
love
then,
doing this motion, Prince. I just but continue. Sorry.
Facebook, first and last name. LinkedIn, first and last name. Prince Eboka. Yeah, what else? I'm not on Snapchat anymore, but yeah, email prince@pillarhousingllc.com.
Oh,
Awesome, cool. Like just one more question, like are you like open to like taking like mentees? Like I'm sure like you have a lot of like information, you have a mentor yourself, so like I mean there's probably people that are like trying to get into real estate or like maybe where you are, like is that something you'd be open to down the road? Or
I'll put it like this, like I am always open to share information, because it was by the grace of these of people, just even in many cases just random strangers who they saw what I was doing, and they imparted their wisdom, and for that, like I'm always open to doing that. But being like a mentor, I don't feel qualified to do that. There's such a high bar for someone who's gonna say like they're your mentor. So it's like, yeah, no, I'm always down to share information. I'm always down to share what I know, and to even learn. Iron sharpens iron, so.
For sure. Maybe down the road one day.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe.
For sure. Awesome. Well,
100%.
Thank you, Prince, again.
Thanks,
I think that's pretty much everything we have now. Obviously, for the viewers, thank you for listening in. You can follow us on IG, TikTok at 20somethings podcast _. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a review. And
Leave
share
a
with your friends. Tell a friend about it.
Key thing, leave a review. Don't
Leave
swipe
that
up in my
review.
DMs. Go post it on the podcast page. Thank you.
Please.
I think I still need to leave. I think I need to leave a review myself. So.
Well, awesome. Well, I think that's everything, guys. Thank you guys for listening. And we out.
Peace.
Peace.